Hey, what's up everyone? Gamer Guy 7 Aces, and today I'm doing something that, I've been thinking about. I'm doing like a random discussion video, or not a discussion, it's more like a rant or whatever. It's just, something I wanted to say cuz I was just going on my Twitter feed. I see a lot of Sonic fans lately saying, "Oh, I'm no longer hyped for this Sonic game," or I'm no longer looking forward to Sonic Mania or Project Sonic 2017. And when I see that, I'm like, okay, that's understandable. Sometimes you'll like something, and then the more you see of it, you lose interest in it. Like, I can say that a lot for some movies, but then when you ask them, they'll be like, well, because we haven't gotten any new trailers for it, or we haven't seen anything new, we don't even know when it's coming out, therefore the hype is dead. And I just have a huge problem with that, because that is the problem with the Sonic fan base, and that is the main reason why we've been getting a lot of subpar and mediocre Sonic games for the past decade. Because Sega has this notion, this impression of us that we want games now, we want it now, we don't want to wait. And with Sega, they're all about making as much money as they can and continuing. So they're going to rush the games and give it out to us because they don't want to upset the fans. We want it now. And that's part of the reason why Sonic 06 exists. I'm not going to take the blame off Sega. Sega is the reason why that game Sonic 06 is bad. From poor choices, poor design, and they kept running with it and rushed it out for a holiday release. But the thing is, had they delayed that game, Sonic fans all over would have been angry. We would have been pissed. So you can't say the fans are completely innocent. That is the problem I'm having with this. I've been seeing a lot of Sonic fans lately saying that, oh, I'm no longer hyped for Sonic Mania or Project Sonic 2017 because we haven't gotten anything lately for it. And while I can kind of understand what they're saying, like, I thought by now we'd have a release date for Sonic Mania. Sony gave a release date for Crash Bandicoot, a Crash Insane Trilogy. That's coming out June 30th. I at least want to know when the game is coming out. But I'm starting to think that the game might not be coming out in the spring at all. It might be coming out later in the fall, and that's totally fine by me. After all, Sonic 4, and back in 2010, Sonic 4 Episode 1 came out in October, and Sonic Colors came out in November. They were just a month apart, and they both sold well. So I can totally see Sonic Mania coming out early in the fall, like October, and Project Sonic 2017 coming out in November. Who cares? I don't care when these games come out, as long as they come out and they're great and they're polished and they come out this year. I know Sega's not going to pull a KH3 or Kingdom Hearts 3 on us and release the games years later. You know what I'm saying? So that is the problem with Sonic fans. And the thing is, we can't help it. We're used to getting rushed Sonic games. Every year there's always a Sonic game that used to come out, whether it's good or bad. Even if it did need to be made, like Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, or even Sonic Lost World, which was pretty much like, Mario Galaxy. We're used to getting Sonic games every year. That's the way it's always been. Even back in the classic days, we had Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 91, 2 in 1992, Sonic CD in 1993, and Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles in 1994. So we had 2 Sonic games in 94. Now, all those games were great, right? But times have changed, like there has to be more content in games now. Back then, those games were great, but they were pretty short. Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic 3 and Knuckles were the longest classic games because they were 2 games. They were split into 2 because they couldn't fit it in one cartridge. But these days, we want more in the game. That's why Sega feels like they gotta put more padding in the game. Take Sonic Unleashed, for example. That's the whole reason that the Werehog existed in that game was because of padding. Sega thought it would be too short and people would complain about spending like $60 on a game when you only played about 9 daytime stages and it would be over in an hour. So that's why they put all that padding with the Werehog, the combat, the hub worlds. That's all. You guys think they put it because they wanted to try something different? Yes and no. They mainly did that because they wanted the game to be padded. They wanted it to be worth your money. So they just put something in, not really caring about if Sonic fans would really love it. They just wanted to pad out the game. And every 3D Sonic game has had padding when you think about it. Okay, I'm starting to ramble here. Even the adventure games. But whether you like it or love it, that's a whole nother discussion. But that's the whole reason why they put the Werehog in Unleashed. Now, we had shorter games like Colors and Generations, which were better received. But a lot of people, they complain, oh, they're short, or in Sonic Generations, the story is incomplete. There's not even a story. And let me tell you why. The reason is because those games were also rushed too. Yeah, big shocker, right? Generations was a great game, don't get me wrong. One of my favorite Sonic games ever. But while they did work 3 years on the gameplay, they were planning for a much bigger story, more cutscenes, at least the length of Sonic Colors cutscenes. And they were planning for DLC. But because they had to get the game out on Sonic's 20th anniversary, they're like, you know what? These are expendable. Who cares about the story and all that? It's the gameplay that we got right. So they released the game in the 20th anniversary, and even though we loved it, the story was missing. Like, besides the cutscene and chemical plant, that was it. We didn't really get any other cutscenes like that, so it felt missing. Sega actually planned to do a lot more in Generations, but because we expected to have an anniversary title that game, they released it. Now that almost got them in trouble, but Generations is nothing like 06, so Sega lucked out, and Sonic Team, they did good there. But you know, ever since then, you know, they haven't been coming out with games every single year, and then we always get all antsy and impatient. Even in 2015, all we had was Sonic Runners, another game that didn't really need to come out, but Sega felt they needed to put out a game out there to basically to whet our appetites, the appetites of the Sonic fans who constantly want a Sonic game every year instead of just waiting. That's also why we had Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric, because they thought, you know what, who cares if it's a spin-off, so long as it has Sonic in it, Sonic fans will be satisfied. And that is the problem. Let's take a look at Nintendo, for example. Look at games like Mario and Zelda. Let's talk about Mario. How many 3D games has Mario had since 64? There was Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy 1 and 2, 3D World. I know some people won't count that as a 3D game, but I count it. And now we're getting Odyssey later this year. So in the course of 1996 or 7 to 2017, we're only going to have 6 3D Mario games. Now compare that with Sonic. That's like twice the number, because most of those games, they just made them to whet our appetites, you know. And even with Zelda, like the last Zelda game was Skyward Sword, came out in 2010, and I think Breath of the Wild was announced back in 2014 or 2015 in E3. So this game was announced since like 2 years ago, and Nintendo kept on delaying it. Fans had to await it. See, that's one thing I respect about Nintendo fans. They know how to be patient. They have to be, because Nintendo is fond of delaying things and delaying their games. But you know what? When the game actually comes out, it is so goddamn polished that they'll be getting nothing but 9s or 10s out of 10. And that's something that Sonic hasn't seen in a long time, because Sega's never had time to work on a Sonic game, like really work on it and add more things to it until now. And all Sonic fans are doing are complaining, saying, oh, I don't have any hype anymore. I never heard Mario fans say, oh, I don't have hype, after 3D World came out 4 years ago, saying there's not another 3D Mario game. I want another Galaxy 3. Screw this. No. The only complaint I am hearing is, you know, Odyssey not being a launch title, but that's more about the Switch coming out too early, when the Switch should have come out in the holiday season. Nintendo Switch was rumored for many years. I think since like 2013 or something. It was called the NX, and Nintendo fans waited patiently for that. I mean, they could have talked about the Switch last year in E3, but they chose not to. We had to wait until October to get a commercial for the Switch, and it wasn't until this past January that we actually got details on Nintendo Switch. So we didn't know much about this Nintendo Switch or anything about it until less than 2 months until the console came out. People were happy with that. Nobody's complaining about that. So why is that the case with Sonic? Like, okay, what about if Mania comes out in June, you know, to celebrate Sonic's birthday, and we finally get details and release date of it next month? You know, I bet you Sonic fans were still complaining. That's one thing I don't understand. We complain about knowing all the levels and generations before it came out, but now we're complaining about not knowing things for Mania. I, for one, am glad that I don't know much. I only know 3 levels: Green Hill, Studiopolis, and crap, I forgot the other one. Is it West Canyon? Crap, I forgot. But that's about it. I don't need to know all the levels in this game. You know, they said there's going to be more levels than Generations, so we're going to get at least 12. So that's all I need to know. So basically, I don't want to continue rambling. All I want to say is, you Sonic fans need to chill. You really need to chill. You know, if waiting for a game makes you lose hype, I don't know what to say. If Sega actually taking their time to make these one of the best Sonic games we've had in years, if that makes you annoyed and angry because you want it now and you don't have it now, and your hype gets lost because of it, well, too bad for you. You know, you can just not buy the game when it comes out, and other Sonic fans like me will actually buy a great polished game and enjoy it. So that's all I wanted to say. There's always going to be problems with the Sonic fan base, but this was one of the ones that I just felt was very annoying, and I had to, talk about it. But yeah, that's about it. You guys are not going to be hearing many rants from me. It's just something I wanted to talk about, these 2 new games coming out. But alright, be sure to smash the like button if you agree with what I'm saying. Also, subscribe if you're new. Hit the bell button below so you can stay updated on every video I post. Alright guys, until next time, until whenever we hear news on Sonic Mania or whatever, or I don't know, until I post the next video. But until then, swag out.